Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. I'm your host, Napasa Pradhan, and I'm really very thrilled to have you join us today across YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. And thank you for tuning in, by the way, folks. Totally encourage you to participate. But before we start off today's session, I have this very important disclaimer. By watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. So definitely, I encourage you to participate in the conversation, friends, wherever you're watching us from. Join us by commenting in the comments as comment section, and feel free to ask your questions or share your thoughts throughout the webinar. And if you have any questions or experience to share, even you may feel free. So we love to hear from our audience. That's what I need you to know. And thank you once again for joining. And today on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, on this very webinar, we have a very special guest once again. This is Justin Rivera joining us. I think this will be the third time joining us for another webinar. Well, thank you so much, Justin, for joining us once again. It's really such a pleasure to have you here.
hmm Thank you so much for having me. It's always nice to be on.
Thank you, thank you. And for folks out there who are maybe seeing Justin for the first time here on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, let me tell you that Justin Rivera is an esteemed employment-based immigration law attorney with Wasden Law. And Justin is not only a defender of H-1B visa applicants, but is also uh, dedicated community advocate. So it's really such a pleasure to have you once again with us, Justin.
Thanks.
And once again, we are going to be speaking about the H-1B cap lottery. I mean, last session we spoke about the second lottery, the announcements, and some of you got selected. But today's session, I think, is going to be more for those of you all who couldn't be selected, couldn't get selected in this second lottery. And what next then? Not just in the second lottery, but in this whole lottery. So thank you so much, Justin. What can folks out there expect from us this session?
Yeah, I think we'll touch a little bit on the issues. Sorry, wife calling. I think we'll touch a little bit on what do you do if you've been selected from an employer and employee perspective, and then what to do in circumstances where you weren't selected, kind of what your options are. And then I
Mhm.
think maybe some more general topics of just kind of discussing a little bit more regarding some of the recent FAQs that have come out for the H-1B visa.
True. Absolutely. So we'll dive into what options are available if you were not selected in the lottery and probably how to navigate your career and your immigration journey to the United States. So without
Mhm.
further ado, I think we'll just dive into our questions directly since Justin is here for a short while only. So Justin, can you elaborate on the recent USCIS announcement regarding the second H-1B lottery for the fiscal year 2025 cap, and what are the key details that petitioners should be aware of?
Yeah, so it's closed. That second lottery has been run. Everyone who's been selected, the petitioner, which is going to be your employer, has been notified. So at this point, more likely than not, if you haven't heard from your employer, then your case was likely not selected. What this means is that selected individuals, they have 90 days to file their H-1Bs with USCIS.
Mhm.
You need to file within that window. Like the last lottery, there's kind of a general statement that USCIS is not going to provide any exceptions for people who file late. So you do want to get that filing in. Now, that being said, um, last lottery, they did provide a small extension for filings based on some technical difficulties that had occurred. So they did give a little bit longer window, but I would not bank on that this time. Definitely try and file your cases early. The reason why you really want to file early or well before that deadline is cases can be rejected, and there have been instances of proper rejection and improper rejection. There's a litany of reasons why a case could be rejected, maybe a lack of signatures in specific areas, lack of correct fees, maybe somehow the case was sent to the wrong location. And then, worst of all, an improper rejection by the by USCIS. So
Hmm.
in that circumstance, you're probably not going to see that packet that's been rejected for probably a week, maybe longer, depending on mailing, where you are, where it was sent. So that's why I would definitely say, be aware of your deadline, but I would say try to make sure that your case is submitted at least 2 weeks before that deadline if you're able to do so.
There you go, friends. You know what to do. And 2 weeks, I mean, try to have some time in hand so that at least if you have to rework on something, you still have some time and not
Right.
going to submit at the nick of time. And even if you have to make any changes, you just don't have time anymore for that.
Mhm.
So thank you, Justin, for taking that up. Moving on now, I think I got the second question. So next is, what specific criteria must registrations meet to qualify for selection in the second lottery? But since it's already done, it's closed. Are there any
Mhm.
particular factors that could influence a registration's eligibility?
So for this round, we were looking at regular cap only. So everybody that that's been selected was out of that grouping, that regular cap. So you weren't in a situation where having an advanced degree, U.S. master's degree or higher, is going to put you at an advantage. So kind of
Hmm.
a quick understanding of how the normal lottery works is the normal lottery, you have the initial lottery run, and then you have the advanced degree lottery run. And the reason why that's so advantageous for people with advanced degrees is you basically get a second lottery run that's going to be just for you and other people with the US master's degree criteria met. And it's
Hmm.
run after the first. So you've already had people taken out of the pot that have master's degrees. So it gives you an advantage when you're being selected. That wasn't the case here. So in this circumstance, you're looking at everyone in that regular cap being um, sorry about that. You have
It's all right.
everyone coming in at an equal playing field. Everyone's coming in at the same level. Now, that being said, I do want to point something out that's kind of nice to have this time around. There's only a regular cap. You have to select
Hmm.
which cap you are filing under at the time that you file. A pitfall that I definitely advise making sure is taken care of is making sure that you select the right cap. That's kind of a point of no return. If you select the wrong cap when you file, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have issues where you're going to see an RFE asking for justification why you filed in the wrong cap. This
Yes.
time, it's all regular cap. Everybody's selecting the same box. You don't have to look at the selection notice to make a determination. It's already said right
Hmm.
there for you. It's just going to be regular cap across the board.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure, Justin, I think you're in a hurry, right? Is
Yeah,
there an
I'm
emergency?
not too much of a hurry. I'm okay. I just my wife's asking me stuff.
Okay, that's fine then. All right. Thank you. Thank you for being patient. And folks out there, we are here. So thank you, Nishant, for your questions. Stay with us. We will take them up. For now, Justin, if you could just tell us, what steps should applicants take immediately after learning that they have been or not been selected in the second lottery, in the second H-1B lottery? So first, let's go with if they have been selected.
So, people who have been selected, I think what you're looking at here is you need to move forward in tandem with your employer to make sure that you're filing as quickly as possible while ensuring that the proper documentation is included in your petition. So, obviously, you need that certified LCA. That takes 7 days to certify. Your employer needs to comply with the posting and notice requirements in that time frame. You're going to need to file with the I-129 form with the correct requisite signatures. Big thing
Hmm.
to remember on signatures. I know it's a small thing to think about, but you are now allowed to use a copy of a handwritten signature. So if time is
Okay.
of the essence and you're in a circumstance where you don't want to mail forms back and forth, the client is completely capable of printing, signing, scanning, and returning a copy of the document signed. And you can use that as an alternative. Now, I will say, it's a preference of a law firm. Maybe some law firms like to use the more traditional paper route because they have a system in place. But
Hmm.
I'm more of the belief that if you're given an easier way to do something, you should do that. So the signatures, the offer letter, you need the description of employment. Maybe if you're working at a third party, you might need evidence of that consulting engagement, via, contracts with the vendor, client letters, maybe, if those are available. I think the biggest focus is going to be, what does USCIS have the ability to look at? And that's going to be, does the position qualify as a specialty occupation?
Mm-hmm.
Has the position been placed in the right SOC code, the right occupational category? An example of that would be, let's say someone's a software developer and you're filing an H-1B for a software developer, and for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason they use the SOC code for a computer systems analyst. Um, you have to really get down to what the person's doing, the job duties that are being performed, to make the determination of where the position qualifies. An attorney is going to be able to take care of that for you, but in order to do that, you have to give the attorney as detailed a description as possible of what the position is. You're going to be including that in a support letter, a document that's going to be signed by the client explaining the position. And the other big thing to remember is the beneficiary's qualifications. Obviously, you have to show how you're qualified for the specialty occupation position. To do that, if you have a non-US degree, a foreign degree,
Mm-hmm.
you must submit an evaluation. I'm sorry, not an evaluation, a translation, a certified English translation. I think an evaluation should also be done as well. Just knock it out. Do the eval with the translation, show that it's consummate to a US degree, makes everything a lot easier for you. The other thing is looking at the type of degree that's being used to qualify someone for the position and making sure that there is that nexus. There needs to be a
Mm-hmm.
connectivity between what the person's doing and their field of study. If there is not a nexus that's clearly identifiable, then you're getting into, do we need to do, there's different phrases for this, combo eval, an education plus experience eval. That's where you're going to be looking
Mm-hmm.
at taking work experience, professional work experience, combining it with the education, to show that the person has a hybrid of the two that's equivalent to a degree in an applicable field. So
Mm-hmm.
again, those are really kind of the big issues to look at, if whether or not that's going to line up. You can always file and see if the case gets an RFE, to kind of save money if you don't want to do the evals. But I think that you should definitely just go ahead and present the strongest case you have up front, especially for this one. This is the first H-1B. This is going to be giving someone cap exempt status moving forward. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be my general recommendation. And then I believe you had asked, kind of on the flip side of that, about people who were not selected.
Yes, that's my
Yep.
second part. I mean, what if people were not selected in this lottery? What do they do? What's their next
So
step?
so I think John and I had talked about this a little bit on Wednesday, if I remember right. Gosh, the week goes by fast.
I
Um,
know, right?
we had spoken about this a little bit previously, and we had talked about going to and try looking for H-1B cap exempt employers. So there
Mm-hmm.
are entities that are able to file H-1Bs without an individual that has gone through the lottery. So an
Mm-hmm.
example of that's going to be nonprofit higher institutions, nonprofits that are working in tandem with a higher institution, and then nonprofits or U.S. government research organizations. So these are all different employers that they don't have to have the employee have gone through the lottery in order to hire them on an H-1B. So I would definitely look at that. Another option that I think is often talked about is if you're on an F1 and you're running out of time. I think the most common issue is your STEM OPT, or maybe you're on
Mm-hmm.
OPT and your degree didn't qualify for STEM. Um, the issue of maxing out on that time for work authorization. I think you have the option of moving up a degree level. So if
Mm-hmm.
maybe you have a bachelor's degree and you haven't pursued that master's, moving up to a master's. If you're from a master's, moving up to a PhD. So moving up a degree level, and then maybe thinking about pursuing CPT. I definitely would generally advise trying, if possible, to stay away from doing CPT at the same degree level that you've already completed OPT at. Those second master's ideals, where people, they already have a degree from school X and they go to school Y, um, and they're at the same degree level. I definitely, in the past, have seen pushback from USCIS regarding maintenance of F1 status when someone does that. So I would be careful for that. But if you are able to move up a degree level, I think that that's a good option. You have the spouse option, which we've talked about before, which is not applicable to
Yes, we
everyone.
did.
But if you have a partner that's on H-1B, perhaps you move over to H-4. You have an L-1 partner, you move over to L-2, you get that employment incident to status, and you're authorized to work. Other options that I kind of just had thought about, because we had talked about this a bit on Wednesday, the L-1.
Hmm.
So the L1 would definitely be something to consider if you are someone who's been registered in the lottery outside the United States and you haven't been selected. Now, you have to have that full year working abroad with a foreign employer, and the foreign employer has to have a qualifying relationship with the US entity in order for you to be sponsored. Now, there's other qualifications. An L1A is for a manager, and L1B is for specialized knowledge. But at the outset, I look at first, is there a qualifying relationship between your current foreign employer and maybe the US company that tried to sponsor you for that H1B that you weren't selected on? Right?
Hmm.
So if that's the case, and you've got that 1 year of continuous employment within the past 3 years, I would try to explore the option of looking for an L1. The specialized knowledge route that's going to be, based on what kind of intimate understanding you have of your organization and how it's applicable to moving over to work in the U.S. The manager is a little bit, L1A manager is a little, I don't want to say more hard line. Basically, my way to say it for this is the L1A manager is pretty like clear cut. Are you managing people? Like, are you managing individuals? Are you managing professional employees? There's also the option of a functional manager, which I'm not going to get into detail about. If you think about that as an option, schedule a consultation with an attorney so that you can really get into the nitty gritty of that. But that's an option too. And then I also would say the TN visa for people who
Hmm.
have Canadian or Mexican nationality or passports. That's another option that you can explore too for work authorization. For
Hmm.
the teams, for the Canadians, it's actually a pretty clear cut deal. They can actually apply right at the port of entry for TN status. They actually don't even have to go through the consulate. Whereas, unfortunately, if Mexico is the route you're going by, you are going to have to at least first schedule that appointment at the consulate. But that's another option based on your country of origin or your nationality. And that's pretty much all I can think of off the top of my head. We can get into details more later if we want about the E1 and E2, but I think those are even more nuanced options that
For sure.
require further analysis.
So true. And thank you so much, Justin, really for touching up again. And folks out there, I would really like to tell you at this moment that you should definitely check out our channel, Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, because we've had Justin and also Jonathan Wasden join us earlier, and we've discussed about the second lottery, what are the options, and even actually, Justin, we had an episode earlier, though it wasn't so clear because of our internet issues, technical issues, but we did discuss and definitely check them out as well. These webinars are very, very informative and you might not want to miss out on them. All right.
Yeah.
So, right, Justin, we spoke about very important things last time. Yeah. So now my next question for you is like, how critical is it for selected applicants to file their H-1B petitions promptly? And what are the potential risks or delays or inaccuracies in the filing process? Are there any common pitfalls that they should avoid or can avoid?
Huh. Yeah. I mean, obviously, kind of as we touched on, it's very important that you file as expeditiously as quickly as possible to make sure that you're filing within that window and that your case is received by USCIS properly. Um,
Mhm.
the things to look out for are going to be rejections, obviously. So that's an instance where, for whatever reason, the case is rejected by USCIS. That's why I advise you try to file early. I know you have that 90-day window, but I would really say cut 2 weeks off that window and say this is your definitive deadline for filing, just in the event that you deal with a rejection. Um, Other things that I would probably look to avoid, your LCA needs to be correct. And what I mean by that is your LCA should properly reflect the actual work locations where you're going to be performing services. So if you are someone who is working at a client location, then that address
Mhm.
needs to be included on your LCA. If you're working at home, that address needs to be included on the LCA. It is important to make sure that your labor condition application is accurate, not only for when your case is being processed by USCIS, but later on down the road when you're looking into potential compliance issues with FD&S.
Hmm.
So for those who don't know, FD&S has the ability to investigate any petitions that have been approved by USCIS. This means that at any point they could visit a work site and request information on what the employee's been doing, call a supervisor,
Hmm.
things of that nature. So you want to make sure all of that information is accurately reflected. The last two would definitely be, make sure that it's actually great to go back and kind of talk on this for a second. When you are selecting the SOC code, making sure that the person's the right position type, another important thing to consider is the wage. How much you're paying the individual and whether or not that wage is compliant.
Hmm.
So if you're paying, somebody to do work where they're managing a large group of people or maybe a large number of projects, and you say that it's an entry level position because you want to pay the level one wage, that's that's probably a red flag to USCIS because they're looking at the nature of what the person's doing and they're saying, how is this an entry level position? If this person is, a large scale manager, they should probably
Hmm.
be at a higher wage level based on that, maybe a level three or a level four. Um, so that's another thing to consider because that's definitely something that USCIS can come back on. I remember specifically I believe it was the first year of the Trump administration, there was just a colossal influx of RFEs and related to the level one wage.
Hmm.
Specifically, that basically, all of these companies were just saying all these positions were entry level and then not bothering to do a real detailed analysis of what the people were doing in these positions.
Okay.
So you have to be able to defend that, you have to be able to defend what it is that you're putting in the petition. So the way that I like to look at it is this: every petition that I'm reviewing and submitting to USCIS, my thought process is always, what can the officer attack? What is it
Okay.
that's missing or deficient from this petition that would give them a justification to issue an RFE? And what can I do to make sure that that's not the case? I mean, the simple matter is sometimes there's not document X available. It's not there. Or, you've already filed the LCA and you're kind of, you need to get the case done because you're running out of time and you do a second look and you think, oh, maybe the wage level's online. You still have to put the case out and get it filed. But I would definitely say make sure you do your due diligence. And that really comes back to starting early. I mean, we know now who's been
Yes.
selected. You have plenty of time. You have about three
Mhm.
months to get these
3 months,
cases in.
90 days, right?
Right. So you really need to make sure that what you're doing is presenting the strongest petition possible.
So it's the correct time, friends, to go out there. If you don't have an attorney yet, go get one and do everything right. And just like Justin has mentioned, how can you be attacked and make sure that you will not be attacked. So make
Yeah.
sure that you don't get an RFE also for that matter.
Yeah, and I mean these are
All right.
these are incredibly important filings. I mean, the as we've learned from looking at the data from this year's lottery, it looks like there's a negative trend towards selection rate, meaning that
Yes.
the probability of you being selected in the lottery is trending downward right now. It's becoming more difficult for people to be selected based on the changes that have been made over the last couple of years, combined
Yeah.
probably with the negative impacts of the economy that are creating a less willingness for people to file. John and I had
Right.
talked about this last week. These increased fees. What is the impact of these increased fees on the
Hmm.
probability of companies continuing to want to file for new H-1Bs? I'm not professing that I know the future, but it's logical to conclude that, like John said, as the amount something costs goes up, the demand for it is going to go down. So
Go down. Right.
those of you who have been selected this year, I mean, this is incredibly pivotal for you. You really, really, really need to do everything possible to ensure that you're able to get
Yes.
that case approved this year.
Yes. Make it count, friends. I mean, nobody just gets lucky in a lottery, so make it count. And also another thing is, if you should definitely go follow Wasden Immigration Litigation on LinkedIn for more updates on anything related to immigration. All right, so thank you so much, Justin, for taking that up. And yes, I think we should definitely move on to our audience out there. So Sam Dilton says, "Hi, Justin. And he has a question. Is it possible to apply for an O1 visa if I have extraordinary abilities in my field? Or if I have STEM education, wanted to check the options after being not selected in the lottery?
Okay. Yeah. So I think we've seen this question come up a couple times that in regards to the O1. So the O1 can be a viable option for someone that is able to show extraordinary ability. It's a high bar, okay? That's a higher bar than there is for an H-1B. It's a higher bar than there is for an L1. It's simply a much higher bar. Extraordinary ability is things like, you know, international acclaim, awards, research papers. You've judged competitions. You've worked
Hmm.
with distinguished companies. It's a very very high bar. The factors are available on USCIS's website if you want to look at them. I will say that people in AI, because of recent changes made in the Biden administration, people who are working in AI now have a better chance filing for an O1 because the Biden administration has made it known this is something that they want. They want to retain international talent that is proficient at AI. So I would definitely say if that's the specific field that you're in, you
Hmm.
might want to look into speaking with an attorney about whether or not you qualify. Maybe you need to
Qualifying, yeah.
strategize. You need to look in and say, what actually am I missing and what do I need to do in order to eventually qualify for an O1 and begin taking those steps. I definitely
Hmm.
think that it's not easy to be a kid that goes straight out of college to an O1. I don't think that
Got it.
it's easy because you have to produce a lot of justified documentation to show that you qualify. Now, that being said, I've seen it happen. I've actually seen a case recently where someone got an O1 for their interactive work with artificial intelligence, and they had just come out of
Wow.
school. And they had judged competitions while they were in school. They were very
Wow.
distinguished in their field. They had, written papers. They had worked for big, cutting edge AI company, and they were moving over to work for a new startup company that was going to be sponsoring them. And they were able to get an O1 approved. So it can be done, but you have to work with an attorney. Nothing short of insane to try to file an O1 on your own. They are so document
Interesting.
intensive and they have to comply so specifically with the rigorous requirements of USCIS that I would definitely say, make sure you do that. Make sure you work with an attorney that has
Right.
good experience doing O1s as well.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Justin. But just in case, I mean, Sam, not to, I mean, discourage you or anything, but just in case if Sam doesn't qualify for an O1, what other option does he have?
Well, I mean, if he's on the F1 and he's hopefully taken advantage, obviously, of his OPT and that STEM OPT. We've talked about a little bit about the options that people have moving up a degree level if they have the ability to do so. So
Hmm.
moving up from that bachelor's to master's, that master's to a PhD if they have the ability to do so. And then you're probably looking at maybe working with a cap exempt employer as well. That could even be twofold if you're trying to build your docket up for an O1. Maybe you can go work with a research, a government research organization that is going to allow you to produce work product that can later be used to justify the qualifications for an O1. So
Okay.
I would probably explore those options and see if there's anything that's available to you.
I was thinking you'll say P3 or something because when I think about O1, it's mostly like artists and extraordinary people who are really world famous and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, but
It's
yeah,
it's surprising, but that is true. The O1 is that very high threshold, but I've definitely seen people get O1s that no one has heard of unless they're working within that industry. My favorite
true.
case that I've done for an O1 was someone who extraordinary ability in marketing. Someone that had worked on a
Oh,
bunch of very interesting campaigns for some big clients.
wow.
Can't say their names, obviously, but really big. And it was actually very cool to work on because in the moment I actually
Hmm.
learned, oh, well, that's who made that commercial. That's the commercial for, or company A that you see on
Wow.
TV all the time or on the internet all the time. This person's the one who put everything in place. They came up with the idea. They helped hire.
Wow.
Yeah. So what I mean by that to say is that yes, the O1 is for distinguished and talented individuals, but it's really going to be in the field that you're looking at. So just because you're someone that doesn't have a Nobel Prize, that's the I think the easiest go to. You have a Nobel Prize, or you're an O1 because you won an Olympic medal. Like, yeah, those are going to be pretty clear cut O1s. But there are ways to qualify for an O1 outside of those kind of clear cut options.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. That was very well explained, and I'm sure, Sam, you have more clarity on how to go about this now. Moving on, let's take up this next one. This is from Nishant asking, my OPT stem is expiring December 21st, 2024. I am on a full time with a banking client. They
Mhm.
have confirmed that I was not shortlisted. What are my options? And I don't want to move to CPT.
I mean, you're kind of putting yourself in a situation if you're taking CPT off the table, but it's understandable. I would say you have to. My first thing would be going up a degree level if you can. Would be the first thought process if you're trying to maintain work authorization, because that's probably going to be the easiest option for you. Outside of that, you kind of have to look at what's this person's nationality. Do they have the opportunity to maybe try for a TN as opposed to an H-1B? Since they're not going to be able to qualify for that. You're not going to
Mhm.
be able to stay with that banking client if you're trying to move to a cap exempt H, because they're not going to qualify, I'm guessing. So really, I think what you're looking at is going up a degree level. And even if you don't want to do CPT, that's probably how you're going to maintain your work authorization. Because the only other real option for you is maybe seeing if you are qualifying for a TN. Maybe explore the E1 or E2 options. But if you're a student just coming out of school, I don't know if you're going to be able to meet those thresholds. So yeah, I'm sorry. I know you probably don't want to do CPT, but that might be your best pick if you're trying to stay with
Okay.
that client. The only other option, like just spitballing off the top of my head, would maybe be, are you open to working outside of the US for a year? And maybe, if the company has a foreign affiliate, can you go to Canada and work in Canada for a year? You're still staying in North America. You can work with that foreign affiliate for a year, and then maybe they can explore the option of doing an L1 for you. Or maybe you're working at a company in Mexico. So that's it. That's kind of all I got for you. Sorry you weren't picked, and it's probably not the answer you want, but it's the answer I have.
Thank you. And all the best, Nishant. Look for it and try and maybe give CPT a chance as well. Moving on, this is Pedo Drew. Hi, my H-1B has not picked in the second lottery. Can we expect the lottery this year? And what is the current job market in the US? Can we expect any changes in the next year?
Okay, so first off, we've disclaimered this already about legal advice, but to further disclaimer, I'm not like a CNN analyst or something that has the ability to predict the economy. All I really know about is what happens with my retirement at this point. So yeah, I think it's very hard to be predictive of the job market. I mean, international things are going to impact that. As you can see, there's turmoil overseas in multiple areas where there's active conflict.
Right.
We don't know what's going to happen with that. We have no idea who's going to win the election. That's going to be another thing that could be outcome determinative for the economy and the job
Mhm.
market. Um, can we expect a third lottery this year, though? I think we may have touched on this a little bit previously. The problem with a third lottery is time. I just feel it's very difficult to think that USCIS is going to have time. This current filing window runs all the way up until November. I would assume they wait until it's pretty close to closing, if not closing, if they were going to make any sort of determination. And at that point, what do you do with a third lottery? I mean, are you picking people and telling them that they can file from November to March? Because then you're literally running into registration for next year. And so you
Right.
do have to
And
think. Yeah,
It's like we'll have
USCIS.
the holiday period in between, like December,
Right.
January. I don't think people will work
Right.
at
You're
all.
dealing with office closures. This is a government entity. To think that they're going to be putting in overtime for this is ridiculous. Um,
Yes.
so no, I cannot realistically see there being a third lottery. But I will say the exact same thing I said last time. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to be incorrect and for there to be a third lottery. But I just looking at the factors don't think that that's going to happen. So
Right.
that's my input on that. And then about the job market, I have no idea, guys. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, you've seen recent layoffs in the tech industry. We actually just saw layoffs in healthcare to an extent. There's some
Yeah.
hospitals down here in Texas that actually cut 5% of their staffs. I'm hoping there's not a recession because that never benefits anybody. I mean, that just makes everything more difficult for everyone. But we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to keep our fingers crossed and hope that things
Yes.
trend upwards.
True, true. And Peruju, I think, can we expect changes? Yes, we can always expect changes because that's the only thing that's constant. And
It's
let's hope for the
change.
best,
Yeah.
Peruju. Yes. All right, let's move on now to the next question we have. Let's take up Madhu. Nishant is continuing to say, my job
Yeah. So
required
that,
to stay in the
yeah,
US.
which I understand that takes off the L option for you. So it's just not, yeah, available to you. I'm sorry. So I even though you're adverse to the idea of CPT, I do think if you're moving up a degree level that you're going to be in better shape. I would try not to engage in like a second master's or something like that.
Mhm. All right, I think we'll just take a quick break now, if that's fine, folks out there. You keep commenting, we'll take up your questions. And once again, I would like to say that please follow Wasden Immigration Litigation on LinkedIn for more immigration updates. And also don't forget to subscribe to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we would be happy to take up your questions as well. So also feel free to contact Justin, and his details are on the screen. All right, so you can contact Justin and definitely check out their website as well, wasden.law. And you can note down his phone number. His phone number is 844-592-7336. And you can mail him at support@wasden.law. Thank you so much. Let's go for a short break.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry, exceptional employee benefits, highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408 335 6444 or mail us at nipa@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com.
Hey, sorry guys, I don't have any audio, so I'm not able to hear a
Control stepping
question.
in. You have no audio.
Very good.
Control stepping in. You have no audio.
All right. I hope you can
Now
hear
you
me,
are.
folks. Can you hear me?
Now good.
Now we
Okay.
now we got
So,
you.
yes, I think it's not a smooth webinar.
Control
We
Alt.
don't have any technical difficulties, but thank you so much letting me know. I hope I'm audible. And I'm very happy to welcome all you folks back to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. We are streaming live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And thank you so much for all your questions so far. And wherever you're watching us, you can keep commenting because Justin is here to take up your answers. And today we're discussing of if you didn't get selected in the H-1B cap lottery, what's next? What can you do? So I think let's take up more questions from the audience. That's fine. Let's take up Madhu. This is on YouTube. Madhu is asking, my application was shortlisted in the second lottery, but my L1B max out period is August 18, 2024. What are my options if I don't want to travel out of the country? That's like 9 days from now.
Yeah, I mean, file a change of status as quickly as possible. Just file a change of status to H-1B, but the problem is your age can't take effect until 10/1. So even if you file prior to that timeline, you're going to have a dead period from when your current L1 maxes until the start date on that H1B. You will be in POSA bag, a period of stay authorized by the Attorney General. What that basically means is you've timely filed a valid change of status petition that gives you authorization to remain legally in the United States during its adjudication, but you're not going to be able to begin working until 10/1 because that's the threshold. That's the first date that you can actually be on H-1B status for the fiscal year.
Okay. All the best, Madhu. And I'm sure, I hope you are able to make it on time.
Yeah, I
All
mean,
right.
the
So,
alternative to that is you consular process, and I know you don't want to leave, but you leave the United States, you wait till the H gets approved, you file for, you schedule a visa appointment abroad, and you go attend the visa interview, get your visa stamp, and come in. You should be able to, top of my head, I think it's like 90 days before the H kicks in that you can schedule a visa appointment. Please don't quote me on that. It could be 60. But you can go to the visa appointment before the start date on the H, and then I believe you can enter the United States up to 10 days prior to the start date of that validity period. So I know you don't want to leave, but you could leave for maybe a month and then come back in right before your H kicks and start working. So I don't think it'd be that big of a deal.
mhm.
The alternative is you hang out here for a little bit, um, and then you kind of wait and see what happens.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for taking that up for Madhu, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this next question on the screen is from RK on YouTube. Are J visa options for tech workers and are the impact on future H-1B and green card?
Okay, so yeah, I don't want to get too into the weeds with this. To be honest, if you're using a J visa or you've used if you're on a J visa and you're looking at H-1B going into the lottery change status H-1B, there are additional extra considerations that come in. There actually are even specific questions about the J visa contained within the I-129 because there are special requirements associated with that visa. But the thing about those requirements is they actually can even be tied to the country that the person comes from and or the work that the person is doing. So I would definitely say if you are using a J, you're going to need a little bit more extra work on your case than somebody who's moving from like an F or maybe an H4 where it's going to be more straightforward. So yeah, it plays a role definitely in the process. And so I would definitely make sure that you're working with an experienced attorney on that to make sure that they are able to properly determine your eligibility prior to filing.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Justin. And well, there you go, RK. I hope you got your answer. Okay, moving on now. This one is from Rish. Since I wasn't selected in the lottery, I'm considering enrolling in another degree program to maintain my F1 status. Are there any risks of this strategy?
So
That's it.
the problem with this for me becomes enrolling for another degree program at the same degree level after you have utilized 12 months of OPT. The reason for that is USCIS seems to have taken the holding that if you utilize those 12 months of OPT at, let's say, the master's degree level, and then you go and apply for a second master's because you've maxed out your time and you want to engage in CPT, USCIS seems to have taken the holding that you're not supposed to be allowed to do that, or that it's a violation of F1 status to do that. So I would definitely say that in that situation, where you're making that determination, always try to go up a degree level, because if you don't go up a degree level, then you're going to be in a circumstance where if you end up getting to change status, where you get to go from file a change status from F1 to H-1B, you could end up with a
Mhm.
request for evidence showing that you have failed to maintain status. And that means that you could end up in a situation where your case gets approved without an I-94. And so in that circumstance where your case gets approved without an I-94, you are forced to go abroad, meaning you're not able to remain in the United States in order to activate that H-1B. It's not going to change status for you on 10-1, and it's going to require you to go to the consulate for a visa interview. Now, where things get even more problematic in that circumstance is if you're attending a visa interview and you're found to have had a violation of your F1 status. That's possibly a question that's going to come up at the consulate. If that question comes up at the consulate and you don't answer truthfully, then you could be found inadmissible, meaning that they won't give you the visa stamp. They won't allow you to come into the United States. So all of that can be a direct effect of choosing to remain at the same degree level or go up a degree level. Basically, I would definitely say that's the risk associated. I would probably stay away from the second masters. Um, I would love to. I'm sorry, I'm starting to get close to wrap up time. Um,
Sure.
so I would definitely say when you're looking at a second masters, just make sure that you realize that there is a possible penalty if you've utilized all that OPT time already at the same degree level.
Thank you. Thank you for taking that up. And I think this will give us to this last question, all right, from Drive. Hey, Justin, love your energy. I have a question actually. My current visa status allows me to stay in the US, but not to work. What are my legal options if I want to continue working without violating my status?
Hmm. It's an interesting question. I mean, I think that'd be status, based. I mean, for example, what's the underlying non-immigrant status that you're currently on? So, if you're on an H4, you have the option of acquiring an EAD in the event that your spouse has that approved I-140. But if
Mhm.
you're on, maybe say like a B2, a visitor visa or something like that, that doesn't permit work authorization, you have to change status to another non-immigrant status that carries with it work authorization. Um, yeah, I mean, don't ever perform unauthorized work. That would be the best advice I can give anyone. Don't perform unauthorized work, because you may think that you're getting away with it and not realize that the government is going to look at your entire record when you go to adjust status, if that's something you plan on doing in the future. And I cannot tell you, unfortunately, how many pitfalls I have seen where you're in a circumstance where, gosh forbid, you're adjusting status, you file the 485, and you get hit with, an accusation of a status violation or some sort of issue. Now, there are obviously ways you can overcome those certain issues. I'm not going to go into the nuances of that specifically,
Mhm.
but the best thing you can do is present, a squeaky clean immigration record when you're going to file. So yeah, I mean, you have to move to another non-immigrant status. That's going to permit you work authorization. And if not, you have to continue to just live in the United States and not work. But again, it really does kind of depend on what your underlying status is.
All right. All right. So thank you so much, Justin. Is that it? Should we wrap up, or do you still have time for
Uh,
one more question, maybe?
I do apologize, but I'm pretty short on time. I did, if you guys
No
wanted to,
worries.
I did want to maybe see if we could touch on the updates that had gone on with USCIS just real quick, because I thought it was very
Sure.
interesting that they had actually, for the whole time I've been practicing, H-1B ownership of a business has been something that people wonder about. It's tough when you're tied to just one employer, and you can only work for that employer,
Yes.
and you're not capable. You're not able to start your own business.
Right. I
They've
had a
come back.
question, so it's there on the screen. I couldn't reach up
Oh,
to there, but there you go.
no
Yeah, go
worries.
on.
So I just wanted to touch base on that because it was something I had been looking at over the past couple of days that I thought was really interesting. Before, passive investment and ownership was basically the only route that you could go. So what that means is you could have ownership in a business, but you couldn't actively work in the business. It had to be passive investment only. Um,
Yes.
Now it looks like you can have a controlling interest, and potentially qualify for an H-1B with the employer that you own. Um, they're calling this beneficiary owner, which I think is an interesting
Interesting.
phrase, something I've never heard
Very
before.
interesting.
But yeah, beneficiary
Yeah.
owner. The idea that you are the owner, basically your company sponsors you for an H-1B. So
Yeah.
I thought that
How
that's
cool is that?
interesting. It's in its infancy. It's new. There right now there is regulation pending on the performance of non-specialty occupation work. So because I think you're going to get into a lot of weeds here with beneficiary owner, are you performing specialty occupation work? How are you qualifying? What's the SOC code you're using? What wage are you being paid? I don't think you can be an entry level owner, or can you? I don't
Mhm.
know. So these are all like new and exciting things that I think are awesome. We love to hammer the agency when they do stuff wrong, so I do want to at least give them credit when they do something right. And I think that this is an awesome idea that's going to help innovation, and it's going to give H-1B workers, particularly the people that are stuck in this backlog, it's going to
Yes.
give them opportunities to hopefully, explore their entrepreneurial abilities. Because I definitely think the best entrepreneurs in the world are typically immigrants. So giving them this
Okay.
opportunity is going to be colossal. I think it's great. We'll learn more about it, and maybe I can tell you guys updates as I learn them.
Sure, me too, me too. I'm looking for more updates, and maybe when we meet up next time, Justin will sure catch up more on this and maybe
Yeah.
have our folks more clarified with this new thing that's there now.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Justin. I won't hold you up much, but thank you so much for
No worries.
doing this. It was really lovely having you. I mean, for all your actionable advice as well, for all these folks who joined us with their questions and all these insights you had for us, these alternative visa options also, and the deep understanding we got today. So thank you so much once again on behalf of Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, and looking forward for another webinar maybe in the coming week.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to speaking to you again. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Justin. You too. Bye bye. Have a
Bye.
great day. Have a happy weekend. Yeah.
You too.
Thank you, friends. You too, for joining us. It was really lovely having you join us with your questions. And as we wrap up today's session, really thank you all for your active participation and for making this a vibrant discussion. So, a huge thank you once again to none other than Justin Rivera for sharing such invaluable insights with us. And remember, even if the H-1B lottery didn't work out this time, there's always paths forward, friends. So don't lose hope. Always stay positive and keep working hard. And we're here to guide you in every step of the way. So anything immigration related, feel free to contact us as well. And my details are on the screen. You can call me or WhatsApp me on this number, 408-335-6444. You can even email me, nipa@higheritpeople.com. And definitely to get to know more about us, check out our website, www.higheritpeople.com. Also, you can contact me if you're looking for project placements, H4, EADs, green cards, anything related to immigration. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me a mail or a message. Thank you so much, friends, for joining us today. And in case you're watching this webinar after the stream has ended, you can keep commenting your questions because we have our experts who will be more than happy to reach out to you with answers. So thank you. This is Napasa Pradhan signing off for now from Immigration and Jobs Talk Show.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. exceptional employee benefits, highly rated by our employees, global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at nipa@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www